Well, congratulations for clicking the video. You've won a free prize, and that is a completely free Microsoft Whiteboard course. So I created this video, this 45-minute mini course on Microsoft Whiteboard as a way of teaching, learning, collaborating, brainstorming. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put the video here on YouTube as well. I have it on my website at Summit Tech Academy, and I'm going to distribute it to all my newsletter readers for free. But I'm also putting it up here on YouTube for free. So what follows after this brief introduction is my entire 45-minute whiteboard course, how to use the various features, how to use Microsoft Whiteboard in an effective way. So you can go and check it out. Just keep watching this video. That's the course. There's nothing more to it. There's no cost for it, all that stuff. Just check it out if you're using Microsoft Whiteboard. I think this mini course will be very useful for you because it'll show you all the features and hopefully allow you to take advantage of the Microsoft Whiteboard as a teaching, learning, collaboration tool. Enjoy and leave a comment. If you like the video, hit a like, leave a comment down below, all of those good things. And we'll see you in the next videos that I make. I have some really cool ones coming up on interactive whiteboards, but that's another video, another time. Onwards to the free Microsoft course. One of the most effective ways that we can communicate, that we can brainstorm, that we can teach, that we can learn, is to have a common area where we share and capture ideas. Sometimes this might be a paper flip chart. Sometimes this might be a chalkboard at the front of a classroom. It could be a dry erase board. But what about the digital world and equivalencies there? Well, the Microsoft Whiteboard is a fantastic tool that allows us to do all of the things that we would expect from a collaboration platform, but even more because it's digital and we can take advantage of a lot of the digital functionality of it. Now, in this short course, I'm going to show you how to use the Microsoft Whiteboard and go through a lot of the different features. It's really important that after you've taken this course, after you've looked at the information that I share with you, that you go and try this for yourself, because I think you're going to find that by learning the skills about the Microsoft Whiteboard and using the Microsoft Whiteboard in an effective way, you're going to be able to have better brainstorming, better collaboration, and better cooperation with people that you need to work with in order to share and build on ideas. Let's take a look at the Microsoft Whiteboard and how we can use it to benefit our learning, teaching, collaboration, and brainstorming. Microsoft Whiteboard is included as part of your Microsoft 365 subscription. So you might have an account from school or from work or a personal account, and that Microsoft 365 subscription underneath the app list, you should see Microsoft Whiteboard as one of the options. And when you launch it from here, then you're going to get the web-based version. This is really handy because if you have a Mac or an iPad or really any device that has a web browser, you can get Microsoft Whiteboard on that device by using the web app. You can download it as a standalone application for Windows here. So I can go in, I can download Microsoft Whiteboard. You can also go to the Microsoft Store and you can search for Microsoft Whiteboard. It's available as a standalone download. But I'm going to go into the web version here and I'll do some demonstrations using the web version. The downloaded version and the web version are effectively the same version. I'm just going to run it from the web. Now I can go in and start a new whiteboard here. And when I start a new whiteboard, it's going to begin by giving me a series of templates that I can use. Now this is a very useful feature of Microsoft Whiteboard because you can start with something already on the board. This is very useful for things like brainstorming, different workshops that you might have, different types of learning activities, and you can see that it's divided into different types of activities here. So let's say, for example, I want to do a learning activity. There's a number of templates here that I can use to engage in a learning activity. So for example, let's say we're going to do a this and that. I can go in and I can preview. This is exactly what the template looks like. It gives me information on the template. You can scroll to different templates in a sequence here, but I'm going to use this template and I'll say use this template, and now I can place it on the whiteboard. Now the first thing you'll notice is that this looks pretty good on here. It's because I've gone to 41%. So you'll often go to this bottom corner here and you'll work with the percentage screen size. So if I was to go to 100%, for example, you'll see that it actually becomes quite large on the screen. And that might be good if I want to go in and I want to work with one area specifically, like start filling in different notes and such. But you always have the ability to go in and modify the size. And when you have the hand here, you can move it around. Again, it's an infinite canvas. So I can really have multiple templates on here. We can zoom in, zoom out. So that'll help students or my audience, whoever I'm working with, see different things on the screen. Now I'm going to go in and let's go back to my whiteboards here. So I can go back to the whiteboards and I can go back to the home button here. And I have another blank whiteboard that I've created called Learning and Technology. This is just a blank whiteboard, but you'll notice that up here I can go in and I can change the name of the whiteboard, and I can go in and I could always come back and add templates here by going into my drop-down menu, the ellipse here, and I can come back and I can grab templates here. So I'll close templates, I'll leave this as a blank whiteboard. But I may be getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me take you for a tour of what the interface looks like so that some of the things you'll see that I've already shown you, you'll see them in a little more detail. So the first thing that I have is up top here, I have the ability to go home where I can see all of the different whiteboards that I've worked on in the past little while. The most recent one will be in the top position here, and I'll just pop right back into there. Then obviously when I go in, I can say anytime I go into the whiteboard, all new whiteboards will show the templates. I can remove that option. I actually quite like it because a lot of times when I'm starting a whiteboard, I'd rather start with something rather than nothing. So I can go in there. I can also rename the whiteboard. I believe I showed you that a few moments ago. That's a really good idea and one that I need to get better at myself because a lot of times my whiteboards are like whiteboard number 122, right? But it's good to name them because that way you'll be able to find them if you ever want to reuse them. Now, other things that I can do here, if I go over to this side of the whiteboard, there are a number of features here that are very handy. The first one is a simple stopwatch. So let's say I'm doing a brainstorming session and I want to have the ability to say, look, let's spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes working on our brainstorming activity. I can increment the timer, start the timer, and now in the corner here we have a nice countdown so everybody knows when we're going to be coming back into the group and resuming our conversation. That's a very, very useful tool for teaching and training and any time that I want to give some time limits on an activity to get some feedback. Now you see here I've paused it, I can start it. I can even go in here and reset it if I want and change the time and even take it off the screen. There's also a feature called Follow Me. And when I click on Follow Me, now what's going to happen is participants, I can invite people into this whiteboard. They will see me as I move around the whiteboard. This is especially useful for any type of remote situation where I want to have an audience connected into the whiteboard and they're going to be able to follow me. Now, right now I don't have any participants here. So what I would need to do is go over here, share the whiteboard. And when I share the whiteboard, I can select different participants. When they click on that link, they will now be participating on the whiteboard and they will have the follow me here. So I'll close this for now and I will go in and stop the marketing here and I'll stop the following. So we have the timer, we have the ability to add participants and share the whiteboard and then have those participants follow me as I work with the whiteboard. Now we have our account here, so it just gives me information about my account. This is who I am. And then I have this gear on the side. The gear on the side has a number of different options that are very useful. Once I've finished working on the whiteboard, once I've finished brainstorming or I've shared ideas, I can export the whiteboard. And you notice that I can export it as an image. And when I do the image export, it can be standard or high resolution. And with high resolution, that's great if I maybe want to print a poster of the whiteboard, so as a reference, or if I want to do anything with the whiteboard, especially around printing. And then the standard resolution is great if I want to send it to participants so that they can see what we talked about. Let's go back up to the gear icon here. So that's the export feature. I can also go into the export feature, and if I want to do a full export, I can export it out as a zip file. So if I go to export it out as a zip file, right now there's nothing here that's on the whiteboard, so there's nothing to zip. But the idea is that I can have a compressed file here where it's going to be HTML and JSON, and it's going to actually have all of the information about the whiteboard, the text, the links and everything will be active and alive. So this is great if I just want to share what we've done as an image, and this is great if I want to share what we've done as a more dynamic document. Going back to the gear, I can also use collaborative cursors. Collaborative cursors will allow me to have anybody who's participating in the whiteboard have their initials or their profile image showing. So as they participate, you'll see them floating around the whiteboard, but you'll see their initials or their profile image, here's mine here, that will be floating around next to their cursor. So this way I can see who is participating in which aspect of the whiteboard. We also have the ability to enhance inked shapes. This is a very useful feature to turn on, because if I was to go in and do something like draw a triangle, my triangle wasn't very good, but it filled it in and it made it a nice clean triangle. If I was to do something like to draw a circle, that's not a perfect circle, it'll make it into a perfect circle. So you can see that it's enhancing the ink shapes to make them look a lot better on the whiteboard. So I do like to use the enhanced ink shapes, although as a caveat to that, sometimes if you're using handwriting, it can sometimes enhance the shape in a way that you might not like. So for example, if I was to do something like hello, there you go. See how the O was changed into a circle? So that's something to be aware of if you do handwriting. A lot of handwriting on the whiteboard, you may not like to have the enhanced inked shapes turned on. So just be aware of that. You can also have authors, and that provides authorship for everything that you're doing on the whiteboard. So if somebody is collaborating with me and they put an object on the whiteboard, it'll mark that object as being there. So I can show the authors on there. So everything displays the name of the original author of that element on the whiteboard. Very handy for brainstorming and collaboration. The next feature we're going to look at is the ability to format the background, which is very interesting because I can go in and format the background and I can change the color of the background. This is great depending on the type of topic that I'm talking about. I'll often use a whiteboard, a pure whiteboard, or a shade of gray just to have certain objects stand out a little bit more. And then we have the ability to even turn our whiteboard into a blackboard. Now, it is important when we change it into a blackboard that when we're writing on the board, we're choosing a color pen that can be seen on a black background. I'll go into the pen menu in a few moments, but for now, I'm just going to pop down here, and I happen to have a white pen. So when I do anything with the white pen, you can see I'm able to see the white pen on the surface here. Now, if I go back to the format background and I change it back to a white background, what I just wrote there will kind of turn into a light gray. So it's actually a bit of a light gray pen. And I'm just going to show you quickly, if I right click on the whiteboard, I can clear the canvas. We'll come back and revisit that right click menu in a moment. Going back to the formatting of the background, I can also put grid lines onto the background. So this is depending on the type of learning, teaching, collaborating that I'm doing. This can be very useful because I can then use these grid lines as part of the environment that I'm in. So you have a lot of different options, really tight grid there, so really tight lines there, some lines, practice your writing and such. I'll just leave it as a whiteboard with a solid white background for now as I demonstrate some more features. But that format background is a very useful area that you can really dynamically change your background for the better. So that's very useful. We also have some things like help and sending feedback about Whiteboard, and plus some privacy and security settings in here where we can go in and whether we want to have something called connected experiences. This is something that often gets missed when people are working with the whiteboard. I have connected experiences turned on. What does that mean? Well, it means that I can access different objects outside of the whiteboard in order to import them into the whiteboard. So this becomes really important if I'm doing something, for example, importing images and such, doing cut and paste. So if you're having problems with some of the things that I demonstrate in this little mini course, make sure that you go in and you have connected experiences turned on. It is also possible if you're using a whiteboard or a Microsoft 365 account that is controlled by your school or your business, that may not be an option for you to turn on, in which case you may have to contact your IT support department and ask them to allow you to turn on connected experiences, or you may not be able to use absolutely every feature of the whiteboard that I'm going to demonstrate. So that privacy and security is a little bit of a tricky little hidden area thing there where you really want to make sure you have the connected experiences on. It may not be an option for you. You'll have to contact your IT support. Let's take a look at a few different menus here. Now, I'm going to go down to the bottom corner here. It's not a lot of complexity to this portion of the menu, but it is important for some of the things I'm about to demonstrate. First, I can zoom in and zoom out on the whiteboard, and I can have preset zoom levels on the whiteboard as well. So this is very handy if I'm bringing objects onto the whiteboard, I want to zoom in and out on them. I can use either manual or I can go to a preset value. And then if I just want to fit everything on the whiteboard onto one big screen, this will automatically zoom everything. So if I have, say, an infinite canvas, I have lots of different objects and they're spread out, I can easily come back and put them all onto one place or all onto one visualization of the whiteboard, and then I can zoom in and out of different areas. We'll see a little more of that as I progress through the demonstration here. So we've looked at launching the whiteboard, we've looked at configuring the environment of the whiteboard, and even how we can zoom in and zoom out. But how do we actually interact with the whiteboard, the most important thing of them all? And that's through this menu down here at the bottom. Now you'll see here I have an undo, redo button. I have the selection button. I have the ability to use different pens on the whiteboard. We're going to go through all of these. I have the ability to add notes to the whiteboard, so I can either add individual notes or a grid of notes. I have the ability to put reactions onto the whiteboard. I have the ability to put comments onto the whiteboard, my own text, so I can add a text box on the whiteboard. I can add shapes on the whiteboard. And I also have the ability to use templates, various images on the whiteboard, documents, videos, and links. There's a lot that this menu offers me. In fact, it's the core of the whiteboard. Let's start taking a look at it. So the pens are very important. You might think, oh, I only get 3 pens, a highlighter, a laser pointer, an eraser, a ruler, and a lasso that I can use to grab stuff and select multiple objects. Well, with the pens, if you hold or click on the pen, you'll see that I actually have many, many colors that I can choose for the pen. In fact, if I hit the plus sign here, I get a complete spectrum of colors. So you can have a spectrum or a grid of colors where you can choose the color you'd like. I'll just keep this one as a black marker. I can also increase the thickness of that pen. I can also change the opacity of that pen. Let's put something on the whiteboard so I can demonstrate that to you. So I'm going to go on the whiteboard and I'm going to just write with my horrible handwriting, "Hello World." Now you'll notice here that is all in black. When I draw a square around it, the enhanced shape turns it into a square. And it's important to also note over on the side, I'm at 100%. That's kind of a gotcha with the whiteboard as well. If I was at a lower percentage here, let's say 66%, it would appear that it was thinner. But I want to go in here and I just want to put it at 100% to get a real good reflection of what this pen will look like. I could go in and make it a thicker pen, right? So that's a little bit thicker, right? But I could, of course, make it very thick. And, you can see this is much thicker there as well. So I can go in. I normally like to keep the pen somewhere around the neighborhood of about a 3. That just is my preference, but you can adjust it to your own preference. Another thing I can do with the pen is I could put an arrowhead on it. So now if I was to draw a line, it automatically will put an arrowhead on it. This is very useful if I want to point to objects and such. It'll also give me a marker showing that it's currently using arrowheads. I can also use double arrowheads. So if I want to show the relationship between 2 objects, the double arrowhead is nice. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll have my main pen, which will be a black pen that's just a pen. Then I'll take a secondary pen. Again, I could change the color of that pen if I like, and that's the one that I'll put the arrowheads on. So you can see here that I've written a few things on the board. I've used different color pens. I've used a pen with an arrowhead on it. Let's say I want to go through and highlight some of this text. I have a highlighter available as well. Now, the highlighter, again, allows me to choose multiple colors. In fact, a spectrum or a grid of colors. I have a lot of options in here. And then what I can do is I could highlight. So let's say I want to highlight this purple text. Well, maybe it would be better to highlight that using a yellow highlighter. I can change the thickness of the highlighter. So I can go in and change the thickness of the highlighter depending on how much I need to highlight. I can go in and I can change the color of the highlight. So let's make that a smaller red highlight. So maybe I just want to highlight this section in here. So the highlighter allows me to go through, and notice that it also will snap to a shape. So that's very handy if I'm drawing a square around something that I want to highlight. Now, it's not the only way that I can highlight information. I can make some changes there. I can also use a laser pointer. Now, laser pointer again gives me multiple colors. Here I don't get a spectrum. I just have to choose from these colors here. I tend to go with the classic red laser pointer. And then what I can do is, let's say I want to highlight or I want to draw attention to this word text. I can draw a circle around it. It'll draw the attention and then fade away. So I can say, you know, here's some information, and then it fades away without cluttering up my whiteboard. So that's a great way to draw attention to something on a temporary basis. So a highlighter would be to draw attention to it on a more permanent basis. And then the laser pointer would be drawing attention to it just for a temporary period of time, keeping everything nice and clean. I also have an eraser. And with the eraser, you have a couple of choices. If I click on it, I can do a partial stroke erasing, or I can do an entire stroke erasing. Let's put something on the whiteboard. I'll just put some scribbles on here. So there's scribble one. I'll grab my black pen here. So I'll have scribble number 1. Grab my black pen. So I'll grab the black pen and we'll grab that. Make sure I've got it. Okay, scribble number 1, scribble number 2, scribble number 3. So I'm using a touch screen monitor right now, so I'm using a pen on that monitor. You can also use something I often will use. Let's reach down here. I'll often use something like a tablet, like a Wacom drawing tablet, or something along those lines as well, and then I'll be able to configure the pens and such here. So I'll just go ahead and I'll just close that down, and I'm just using the screen that allows me to write directly on the screen. So sometimes the selection's a little picky. So anyways, going back to the eraser. So if I go to the eraser, I have a partial stroke or an entire stroke. So I've just made some scribbles on the board here, and I have it as erase partial stroke. So if I go in here, you'll notice that I can erase a portion of the line. So actually it's fortuitous I have those red lines on there with the arrowhead. I could erase the arrowhead. Or if I wanted to, I could go in and say erase the entire stroke. And when I choose that, just clicking on the stroke will erase the entire stroke. And so if I split it with the partial eraser, it then makes it into 2 different strokes. So there you go. So you can use the eraser. And one of the things with the eraser too, I'll just put it back to partial stroke. Notice the size of the eraser. If I shake the mouse, right, you'll see that it increases the size here of the eraser, so I can do a larger portion of eraser. As I move the mouse, it'll increase the size of the surface of the eraser, so you can work with that as well. Now, another very useful feature is the ruler. This puts a ruler onto my screen, and you can see here that it defaults to a 45-degree angle. I could then take a pen, so I could take a pen here, and I could put a line on here, and then that would be a line. I can grab the center and move it. I have a 45-degree line here, and I can move that around as an object by itself as well. Now, I can also take my center mouse wheel, and that allows me to scroll the actual angle that I'm working with. So here I have a 20-degree angle here, and then of course go in with my pen, and I can draw that on there as well. So now I have the 45-degree, and I have the 20-degree angled lines. So that's a very useful. Of course, you can measure and do all those types of things. If I go back to this menu here, I can also zoom in. So if I want to get like a really precise measurement, I could use this line here, go to this line here, and then draw a line between, so I go to those 2 lines, and then I could draw a line between the 2 and get a little bit more of a measured line in there. It's certainly not perfect, but it is something that can be used quite effectively on the whiteboard for any time where I need to have at least some measurement in there. It's not a precision instrument, but it's a very useful instrument. That'll stay on the screen until I click the ruler again, and then that'll make it go away. I can also choose a lot of text by using the lasso here, and I can just go in here, and now what this does is it draws a box around multiple objects, so I can grab all those objects. That's pretty much everything on the whiteboard, and it groups them together, so I can now go in and trash them. I could put a comment on them all. I could duplicate all of those objects. I could go in and convert them into shapes. I didn't want to do that. Let me grab my lasso again and draw a big circle around them all. And I could even go into the ellipse here, where I can go and do things like lock them into place. I find this sometimes really useful for duplicating text. So if I go in and duplicate it, now I've got it twice. So that can be very helpful if I'm doing any type of brainstorming on a compare and contrast. So let's say I build up something, I want to make a copy of it and then make a few changes. So example here is I could go in to the pens, grab the eraser, and instead of my text, I could go in and I could say, okay, that's going to be your text. So you can see that's a very handy way to grab multiple objects and duplicate them. I could then scroll out. So let's bring this down to 50%. That's going to give me enough room to draw a circle around absolutely everything. And then I can trash it. And then I can come back up to 100%. The more you play with the whiteboard, the more comfortable you'll get at navigating around. I'm going to put that back to my black pen, and let's move on to some other menu items. So that's the pen menu. I can also go in to the notes menu. Now, notes are a very handy way of putting post-it notes onto your whiteboard. So this is super useful, especially around collaborating. I have a lot of icebreaker activities and a lot of training activities where I'll have students write on post-it notes, come to the front of the classroom and start grouping them together. Now I can do that digitally. So if I go in here, I can choose a different color's notes. So let's choose some orange notes in there. I'll just put the soft orange note on there. I can click that and it'll go, oh, grab it, there we go, goes onto my whiteboard surface. So now I have a nice note on there. I can come in and do different colored notes. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll have different students, they'll get a different colored note, or a different group will get a different colored note. Or I could say something to them like, okay, I want all the ideas regarding one aspect of business will be on yellow notes, maybe human resources is on yellow notes, and financials, well, financial of course would have to be a green note, so I have to put a green note for financials. But the idea behind it is that I can then start grouping notes. It'll even do alignment grids if I need to, so there's a lot of things I can do. Let's take a note here, and you can see I can type into the note. So if I go in here, I can go, hello world. So you can put a note in there. I can change the color of the note after the fact. So maybe that's going to be a blue note. I can go in here, blue note, hey, jazz music. So I can go in here and I can do bold, italicized, and underlined. Unfortunately, with the Microsoft Whiteboard, I do not get font selection. So you can't access like a whole bunch of different fonts. You're kind of limited here. So, but you can underline, bold, and italicize it. You can, of course, trash the note. I could put a comment on the note. So I could say, cool jazz. So for anybody who understands or collects records or anything, Blue Note is a jazz music company, so publisher. So I go in there and notice that that comment is attributed to me. It puts my profile picture on there, and I can even put a reaction to the note. So I can come in here and I can give that note a thumbs up if I'd like. So there's if I'm collaborating on it, I can go in and give it a thumbs up. I could go in and I could give it any of these reactions. I could give it a laugh or whatever the case may be. And that'll also be attributed to me. So your reaction is attributed to the person that put the reaction in there. You just hover over the reaction and then choose it. I'm confused about this note. Okay, so you can go in and make changes in there, and you can move the comment around if you want as well, make changes to it, reply to the note. So there's lots of things that you can do in terms of the note on the note, the comment on the note. I can go in here and I could take this note, duplicate it. So now I have it twice. Now notice when I duplicate it, it doesn't bring over the comment or the reactions. So you would have to, it's just duplicating the note itself. I can also go in and lock it, and a very useful feature is I can send it back or forwards. So I'm going to send this note to the back, and that puts it a layer below the other notes. So if I drag this note over, it goes behind this note, which you won't see too well, but when you drag it over behind a different colored note, you can see that I've dragged it to the back. I can even go to that note and I could bring it to the front. You can also go in and you can use alternate text. This is very useful if you're going to export, or if somebody's working with a screen reader software. The alt text could be this note is about, and you can just put in whatever your alt text is in there. So that can be very important as well. And then you can lock the note in place as well. So you have a lot of different things you can do. I could copy the note, which doesn't seem like I've done anything, but when you right click, you could then go and paste, and it'll paste that note to the new location. So rather than just go in and duplicate it where it sits, so if I go in and I just grab this note here, if I was to go in and say, I'm just zooming in and out. If I say I want to go to this note and I want to duplicate the note, it'll just make a duplicate right there. Whereas with the copy paste, you can copy and paste it to wherever you want. Now I'm going to go back to 100%. Now one of the things that you may have seen there is you saw some changes in the size there. That's the other feature. I'll show you that right now. If I use the center scroll wheel, I can scroll out and I can scroll in, and that allows me to zoom, and it gives me my percentage in the center of the screen, which is very helpful as well a lot of times as I'm navigating this infinite canvas. And I can also put in, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and say clear canvas. I'll be coming back to that screen in a moment. I can go to notes, and I can actually put in a grid of notes. So I could do like a 4x4 grid of these blue notes, and now, 2x3 grid of these notes. I can add notes here, so you can add additional notes in there as well, increase the size of the grid, and you can manipulate this as a grid object, or you can actually go into the individual notes and manipulate them as individual notes as well. So you have a lot of options in terms of putting in, for example, grids of notes. And if I wanted to get rid of that, I could zoom out using my scroll wheel. I could go into my pens. I could grab my lasso. I could select the entire object, and I could trash it. Again, you get comfortable using this as you practice with it, and it's a very useful tool the more you become adept with it. Now, the other thing I can do, and let's just actually throw some notes on there, so I'll throw a grid of notes on there, is I can come in and I can have reactions. You get a whole bunch of different reactions. So let's say for some reason I really like this note. I could say I love that note. And I could go into the reactions here, and maybe there's a note that shocks me. I'm shocked by this note. And this reaction here, I'll go back to my select menu, you can move that around. So what you can do is maybe you're brainstorming. People could post ideas on notes, and then people could react to those ideas and comment on them, which is my next button. So I could even comment on the note. So let's say I'm shocked by this, and I say shocking. So I'll say shocking. So now Frank not only reacted to that note by saying, by giving the reaction, but Frank also went in there, use the select tool here, and Frank also made a comment on that note saying, that was, maybe I'll even put it right there above the reaction. So Frank was shocked by that note. So you can go and add comments into the different areas as well, and that'll give you attribution. And the reason it gives me attribution is because, again, going into my settings menu here, I actually have authors to have attribution there. So that's why you're seeing my name associated with that comment, because I have authorship attribution. So we've looked at the selection, pens, notes, reactions, and comments. We can also put text onto the whiteboard. So here, I'm just going to stick to my good old hello world. It's always a classic. I can put text onto my whiteboard if I don't want to use handwriting. So if I want to, I can edit the text. I can go in and make that text bold. So if I select that text, I can make it bold. I can italicize it. I can underline it. I can go in and change the color of that text. So I can make it, in this case, a purple text. I could delete it. I could comment on it. And I can also go in and do all of the things that we saw with the note object. I can copy it, duplicate it, put in alt text, bring it to the front, send it to the back, or lock it in place. So let's say this is going to be my main topic of this whiteboard. Can go in and lock it into place. And now if I move other objects around, that particular object I can't move around, right? So I won't be able to change where it's located. I can always go in, and I could go in and I could grab that text here, grab the text box, grab my select tool, the text box in here, and I could go in and I could go ahead, and you can see it's all locked in place. You could unlock it. And then when you've unlocked it, you can do all the different things with it. Okay, so that's my text. I can put shapes on here. So again, I have enhanced shapes, but I could go in and draw shapes on there and then bring those shapes. They're shaded, so I can change the shading in there. Excuse me. I can change the shading in there. I can type in there. I can change the outline. So if you want to have a different colored outline there, you can again make things bold, trash it, all the things, front, back, alt text, and ability to lock it and place comments on there. The big thing with the shapes is you get the shading on the interior as well as the box on the exterior, so you can go in and create shapes with exactly the color combinations that you would like. So those are shapes. Now we also have this ellipse, which means there's more. And we can go in and we can use templates. Now when I created the whiteboard, I got all these templates. Let's say I want a workshop template, brainstorming, I can preview it. I can navigate through the two different brainstorming templates. I'm going to use this template, and now I'm going to place it onto the screen. Now notice here that what I had before is now very, very small. So I'll go into my select tool, So this here is very small. It's not really small. It's the same size as it ever was, but my board is at 20% because this particular template is quite large. If I was to go up to 100% here, I'm zoomed right in to the different aspects of this brainstorming template. So what we can do is we can adjust it to a size that works for us. I think the initial size that it came in at was at 20%. So I can actually just zoom out so that I can get the entire template, or I can zoom in to different aspects. This is where I really like to use the center wheel of my mouse for the zooming in and out. I find that's very useful for this. And I've got this nice template, gives me instructions, a time period. Remember, I could even go in and say, okay, we're going to do this for, in case this is an hour and a half, so we're going to do this for 90 minutes. And I could start the timer, and we can have a timer for 90 minutes to do this brainstorming activity. So very useful to do. I'm just going to stop that and get rid of the stopwatch. And there we have my template. Now I can also go in and I can say fit everything onto the screen, and that fits everything onto the screen, my previous material, as well as this template. That puts the board at 13%. I'm going to come into the center of where I was, and when I go 100%, you can see I'm now back to my original 100% in here. Now this is important because when you're working or writing on the board, if I was writing on that 20%, the line on my pen would look very thin. But so here I am at 100%. So if I come into my pen here, let's pop into my pen, grab a pen here. If I was to do any type of scribbling, it would look normal size. Of course, if I went back to 50%, looks like it's smaller. If I go all the way down to 33, it's getting smaller and smaller. If I go over to the template here, right, I can put in my name here. It looks like I'm writing with a really thin pen, but if you go up and center on that and you go up to 100%, you can see it actually is fairly thick. So you have to play around with that a little bit, but it just shows you the power of the whiteboard, the zoom in, the zoom out, the ability to scroll in, scroll out to get a view of things. And again, I usually like to come up to about 100% there. If I want to get to a pure 100%, I'll just choose a preset, and there we go. So the other things that I can import are things like images. So when you go to images, you can upload images, or you can actually do an internet search. So I'll do a Bing search here, and I will say, okay, I want an animal. So it actually has some categories, and maybe I want to put a zebra on there. So I'll put a little zebra on there, and now it'll download that image, and I can have that image on here. Now, of course, I can search for any images I have. So I can go to a Bing search, even though it does have some suggested categories. Let's say I want to talk about data centers. So I can go data center, and I can grab a nice image of a data center. It'll grab that image, put it right to where I was. Of course, I can grab the image and move it to the center of the screen. And then I can work with this image, and I can start doing things like I could put a comment on the data center. Wow, that's a lot of electricity. Right, so I can put that on there. So Frank said wow about the data center. And you can do all sorts of things this way. I can make annotations on here. So I could go into my pens. I could highlight certain things, grab one of my pens here. I could, scribble on here. I've got my black pen actually. So I grab my pen here. I can scribble on here. Now when I go to erase, just as a heads up here, I'm doing a partial stroke. It'll erase my strokes on there, but the image itself, it remains as an image. Now, in addition to images, I can also upload documents. So if I go in, I can grab an online document from a cloud provider, like OneDrive or some sort of cloud service, but I can also go to documents that are on my computer. So I'm just going to go into documents on my computers and find a PDF here. So here I have a PDF of some cards that I have. Now, these are actually part of a brainstorming card deck that I have. So it's called Pip Decks. And these are, when you purchase Pip Decks, you get a PDF of all the different cards that are part of that set. So it's going through, there's quite a few in there, and you can see that it now gives me all of the various documents or pages that are part of that document. And I could just choose one of them and just insert the one page. So now I've inserted this one page here, and now I could go through and say, okay, let's do all the great things that we can do with Whiteboard. Let's go in and let's highlight, the 5 whys. We could go and say an example. So I'm just using that very briefly but you can see how powerful this is. And if I go in and erase, notice I'm not erasing the PDF. I'm just erasing my annotations on the PDF. So I'm able to go in and I'm able to clean it up, and then I could go back and we could highlight different aspects of it. So I could say, okay, we're going to ask, and we're going to look for this Toyota example, and why, and you know, and then when I'm done, of course, come in, and then I don't have to worry about cleaning it, like doing a new import. I can just clean up the old export and then continue to talk about the PDF. So that's a very handy feature as well. I can also import videos. This, of course, is incredibly important because if you're a fan of the YouTube channel Learning and Technology with Frank, which you should be because that's my YouTube channel, then you could import videos onto the screen here, onto the whiteboard. And then that is a great way, if you're going to use the whiteboard for training, and you want to have an icebreaker activity, one of the greatest icebreaker activities is to play a short video on a topic and then have a discussion around that topic. So I can prepare in advance by bringing in YouTube, SlideShare, Vimeo, all these different types of videos by just putting the URL of the video onto the board here. So let's say, for example, we want to have a discussion here. I'll just go ahead and Control V and put my video in here. I can insert this video, and then I can move it anywhere I'd like on the whiteboard. So I'll just grab a blank space here. And now this video could be a discussion. Maybe we're going to talk about note-taking and how to take notes the right way. And there's this video by Learning and Technology with Frank that talks about taking notes the wrong way. And we can say, okay, let's watch it. It'll actually play right inside of the whiteboard here. So I'll just click the play button here. So grab it. And that video will start. Wish that you could remember every book that you've read? Well, that's an interesting video. I only played a few seconds of it. But the idea is you could then watch that video and have a whiteboard discussion around the contents of the video, all within one collaborative space. We can also put links on there. So again, I mean, in this case, this is the same link as the video here. So when I put the link here, it'll actually bring in the video that way. But that would be something where, let's say I wanted to go to a website, I could link websites into here as well. So as an example of that, I'll go again to an infinite canvas so I can move around. If I go in and paste in the URL that I just grabbed, this is the Summit Tech Academy blog. So now this is the blog where I talk about technology and learning. So I've got the link in here. Maybe when I'm ready to talk about that, I can click on the link. It's a live active link. So that will actually open up a web browser and it will allow me to go to that Summit Tech Academy blog and work there. Couple of things to show you as well. If I right click on a blank space, I can bring a note in quickly. I can bring in a new comment quickly. I can right click and bring in text quickly. I can right click and I can paste something that I've copied. And I can also clear the canvas, returning me to a clear whiteboard. Notice that my comment hadn't been posted, so it still stuck behind. But had I posted it, it would have been deleted. Come back up to 100%. And my whiteboard is now my blank canvas. So here in this little mini course, we talked about going into the whiteboards, creating a new whiteboard, giving that whiteboard a name. So we went in to create a new whiteboard. We have the templates by default. We created a name for the whiteboard. We were able to go in and make changes to the way that we are followed, the stopwatch, the parameters on here, where we're able to change behaviors, and how we talked how we can navigate the whiteboard through the menu here, and how the main goal of the main functionality of the whiteboard is all really encapsulated in this menu down here at the bottom. I hope that was useful for you. As always, feel free to follow me on Learning and Technology with Frank. That's my YouTube channel. And I hope you now are excited to start working with the whiteboard and using it in your own learning, teaching, and brainstorming. Certainly ask any questions you may have about any of the different features. The main thing is to practice, practice, practice. And don't forget a couple of gotchas. One, go in here, make sure under privacy and security that you have connected experiences on. That's something a lot of people forget. And don't forget, once you've created a whiteboard, you can export that out so that other people can see it as a PDF document or as an image. So you can have either a high or a low resolution image, and you can also export it out as a whiteboard where the links and such are active. Really important if you're embedding videos, especially from my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for taking the course, and I hope to see you over on the YouTube channel or in future courses.